As passing proficiency proliferates throughout the league, many pundits have questioned the purpose of running, when passing proves more productive. However, efficiency isn't the only thing that matters in football, and every play can't just be measured in EPA, no matter how much Warren Sharp tells you so. Examining the game with only metrics misses out on the fundamental mechanics of football, and how the chess match plays out once you cross the white lines. So, let's explain the theory of running the ball, why it's so important, and teach you the X's and O's. Firstly, the game is all about getting the ball to the end zone, and no matter your starting field position, the shortest path to do so is to run directly up the middle. If you can split or overpower a defense by attacking directly at its heart, you're going to cause chaos all game long. And that brings us to our second point, the physical nature of the game. Changes to rules over the last decade and a half have neutered certain big collisions in lieu of perceived player safety. But, let's be real, the game ain't any less physical or demanding on the body. The trenches are called the trenches for a reason, cause it's a damn war down there. And if you can't hold up physically, it's game over. The third reason is tied to physicality and how it changes the X's and O's. If a team can't stop your run game, they're going to have to bring more defenders into the box, and thus, you've successfully manipulated the numbers count. Forcing a team to commit extra help to the run removes their ability to be creative on the back end. Teams can't just sit in a disguised too-high shell all game if you gash them for 8 yards a carry. If you change the box, you change the coverage, and you create more space in the secondary for your wideouts to exploit. So efficiency and yards per play generated do matter when building a successful offense, no doubt, but reducing running and passing to a single metric removes the fundamental engine around which the game revolves. To reduce it to such finality removes the nuance of how such statistical outcomes occur, and what makes this sport so damn fascinating. Now that we know why we run, let's discuss execution. And the first thing we have to teach is the different type of blocks that exist. A base block is the action of blocking the guy heads up from you and driving his ass backwards, a true staple of the game. A down block attacks a player in the gap away from the run direction, aiming to block them down the line and away from the play. The natural angle advantages make this a favorite of the O-line. When a player throws his body through the legs of a defensive player, this is known as a cut block. This is only allowed inside the tackle box in the NFL, and has been removed from other forms of the game due to its dangerous nature. A reach block requires a lineman to get over to the next defensive player to the play side, and angle his body so that the defender is turned out of the play. Being both strong enough and nimble enough to do this consistently is a very rare trait. A double team, sometimes referred to as a combo block, involves two players blocking the same defender in an attempt to drive him clean out the gap and create a running lane. In a double team, one of the linemen is usually tasked with a climb block, peeling off the double once the push has been created and climbing to a second level defender. If he's required to reach block the second level man, it's usually referred to as a scoop block. When a lineman climbs to the second level without helping on a defensive lineman, this is known as a release block, releasing straight to the second level. Linemen don't just have to work in straight lines, by the way, and one of the most common and powerful blocks is the pull, bringing a lineman around to a new gap to create a blocker for the runner to follow. A trap block is another type of pull designed to pick on the over-aggressiveness of a defense. One lineman will down block and appear to leave a gap free for a defender to rush through, but this is just a trap, as a second lineman will work across the formation and take a clean shot at his ribs, opening up a running lane. A kick-out block is a block specifically designed against the defender tasked with setting the edge, kicking him outside and creating a running lane. This can be carried out by a puller, a fullback, or simply the play side tackle. A crackback block is attempted by a player working against the direction of the run, trying to crack down on a linebacker or edge defender and allow the run to get outside. This is most often carried out by a skill position player and can be paired with a short motion to impart momentum. When working back against the grain to take care of the backside edge, it's referred to as a wham block. This is usually carried out by a tight end or H-back. A lead block is any block where the ball carrier is directly following you through a gap. This is most commonly a fullback, but could be the running back on a QB keeper, or a lineman pulling. Zone blocking is when the line is responsible for blocking their gap to the direction of the run, taking anyone that appears in this zone and looking for work if none appears. A hinge block is when a lineman first squeezes the gap inside before kick turning and defending the edge. This is most commonly executed on the backside of power and toss plays, as well as in sprint protections. More on those in our Pass Pro video. Now, allow me to sprint to protect your skin with our newest sponsor, Geologie, a skincare brand that'll have you looking like the divine beings you were born to be. Geologie is a skin, hair, and body product company powered by facts, not fads. A 35-time award-winning brand, they create simple and effective skincare and hair care routines customized just for you, with ingredients that are proven to work. Geologie Skincare helps you fight acne, reduce oiliness in the skin, and prevent wrinkles. How is it customized just for you? All you have to do is take a quick quiz, and within just a few clicks, their team of dermatologists will have a personalized routine ready to be shipped straight to your door. It's really that easy. Now, I know it's mostly sweaty dudes watching our stuff, but listen, I was lucky enough to receive a care package from the brand, and boy does my skin feel smooth. I can already see the real results. So what are you waiting for? Use my code in the description box and grab 70% off your own personalized skincare routine trial set, with an additional 50% off and add-ons waiting for you there too. That's over $49 in product for just $15. Skincare has never been this easy thanks to the good folks at Geologie. With basic blocking terminology now in our pocket, it's time to turn our attention to play design. Let's first start with gap schemes, where the aim is to use the natural leverage of the line to block away from the run direction, using kickouts, pullers, and lead blocks to create a running lane for the ball carrier. The most well-known run in football, power, is the definitive gap run. The front side of the line will look to create as many down blocks as possible, trying to push the defense away from the run. The backside guard will then pull and become a lead blocker, with the fullback or tight end kicking the edge to create a lane for the back to follow him through. The backside tackle will then hinge block, squeezing down the gap the guard vacated and fanning out to protect the edge. Blocked correctly, it's one of the most devastating runs in football. There's a reason it's been around since the dawn of the game. There are many variants to power, and you don't just have to pull the guard. It can be the center, tackle, or even an H-back. But I can't go into every variation, or this video will be 47 minutes long. We'll save that for the 201 class. The evil twin to power, the counter concept uses similar ideas with some misdirection to create another gap scheme staple. The aim of the play is to get the defense thinking you're going one way, only to hit them with a power scheme going back the other way. The play side of the line will create as many down blocks as possible, with two pullers working their way around to lead the way. The first kicking out the edge, and the second becoming the lead blocker. What sells the fake is the QB's footwork and the running back's path. The QB will pivot the opposite way from the run, as the back takes a counter step in the same direction, before quickly cutting and getting behind his pullers. There are many different variations of counter, and it's usually labeled with whoever's pulling, GT and GH being the most common. The ISO run is another gap staple, and it's perhaps the simplest of the schemes. Each of the offensive linemen are assigned a man to block, aiming to drive their man off the line and out of the gap, isolating a second-level defender for the fullback to hit. Some teams will call this lead when not aimed at the Mike linebacker. Due to its quick-hitting nature, ISO is especially common in short yardage and goal line situations. There are many variations of ISO too. You can add counter footwork to add misdirection, call a dive play where the fullback goes to the weak side, or run insert and use an H-back to take on lead blocking duty. Our next gap scheme is duo, often called doubles, and at its core, it's about getting as many double teams as possible and driving the line back. The aim is to create push up front and force the linebacker to be wrong. If he stays inside, you bounce it. If he gets wide, you cut it straight up the middle. Duo is always run to the tight end side as he is an integral part of the scheme. creating the numbers needed for multiple double teams. The double teams follow the gap scheme rule and try to climb to the second level players away from the play. Duo is a great change of pace play that has become increasingly common in recent years, with reduced numbers in the box and more dominant defensive line play. The draw play is more of a tag than its own specific thing, but it's another misdirection given to the defense, faking as if it's going to be a pass before handing the ball off to the back after a delay. There are many variations that can be run that can attack different gaps, but its main function is to keep the defense on its toes. The trap play is a gap scheme designed to trick an over-aggressive and penetrating line. The idea is to leave one defensive lineman unblocked and fool him into thinking he's got a free path, only to be trapped by a pulling lineman kicking him out. The closest offensive lineman will downblock or immediately release to the second level, and then a second lineman will pull, laying a shot to his ribs and opening up a running lane. With blockers already to the second level and the perfect angle to take out the penetrating defender, a lane is opened up for the back to hit. It's a versatile play too. Variations include the long trap, where the guard is trapping a lineman 3 gaps over, or the TF favorite, crunch concept, a series of trap blocks designed to attack aggressive run blitzing fronts. I see it run only a few times a year, but it's an absolute beauty when run to perfection. So far, we've talked about gap schemes, but there's a whole nother way to block too, and those are zone schemes. In zone blocking, each defender is responsible for a zone to the play side, all blocking in unison and in one direction. Zone makes it much easier to work out who to block, as you're assigned a zone, not a man based on the front. Inside zone is a staple of many teams' offenses, with the offensive line zone blocking in the play direction and the back aiming between the tackles. If you're covered, you're gonna block the man heads up from you and try to drive him out of your zone. If you're uncovered, you look for work, climbing to the second level if there's nobody to block. Instead of the double team player climbing to the second level and away from the play side, they'll climb it to the backer in the direction of the play call. This is the distinction between inside zone and duo, and why they are so often confused with each other. Inside zone is looking to create vertical displacement and push the ball up the gut, with the back aiming at the play side leg of the center. If the defensive tackle hits the play side A gap, the back will read the backside A gap. If that gets filled by a crashing backer or DL stun, he goes to the backside C. With the entire line blocking one way, the cutback lanes can be deadly, turning a simple inside run into some big yards. Run effectively with good blocking, the defense is always going to be wrong until they overload the numbers. In Split Zone, the name of that podcast by Stephen Godfrey and those other 2 dudes, the H-back or fullback will work back against the grain and take out the backside end, allowing the tackle to help out on a double team or climb to a linebacker early. In the outside zone, the back is going to aim at the outside foot of the tight end and wants to get to the edge and round the outside. Because of this, outside zone blocking is different too, trying to gain horizontal ground and seal the defender back inside. If the back can't get to the edge, he'll read the next gap inside, and as each gap becomes filled, the back will move his read a gap in until a hole presents itself, cutting to daylight when he finds it. When the running back is aiming even wider, this is usually referred to as stretch or wide zone. This is much more common in high school or college than the NFL, with the wide hash marks creating greater space to run into. There are also gap schemes that aim to attack the edge too. The sweep is an outside power play that often uses 2 or more pullers as lead blockers aiming to get the ball outside quickly. The back is going to aim wide, with blockers often engaging their man before he is turned upfield, giving them time to open up a running lane. The jet sweep is a variation of the play paired with the jet motion from a receiver, quickly receiving a handoff from the QB. The aim is simple: get the ball out to the edge as quickly as possible and force the defense to chase you. A modern innovation is to make the exchange a pop pass. This means if the ball is mishandled, it counts as an incomplete pass, not a fumble. The next 3 plays are similar, but all have subtle differences. The end around attacks a defense's edge discipline by faking the ball inside before flicking the ball to a receiver working his way behind the play. When the defense starts selling out to stop the inside, this is the perfect counter. The reverse attacks a defense's pursuit discipline, first giving the ball on the end around or jet sweep before having this player lateral it to another player coming back the other way. When the ball is handed off to a receiver, a defense can often find itself scrambling in an unfamiliar situation, resulting in over-pursuit to stop the ball. The double reverse attacks the defense's discipline as a whole, forcing them to keep their eye on the ball and their assignment in check while the offense plays hot potato. We'll be explaining its mechanics next week in our video all about trick plays, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Another common twist to the run game is to make it an option play. In its most basic form, the offense will leave a specific player unblocked and have the quarterback read this defender. If the defender maintains their gap discipline, the QB will simply hand it off, knowing they've successfully created a numbers advantage. If the defender crashes down to take away the threat, the QB will keep it and attack the vacated gap, causing the defense to always be wrong. The most common form of this is the zone read, often wrongly referred to as the read option. There are both inside and outside zone variants, but the same idea holds true. Instead of blocking the backside end, the QB reads him. If he shows discipline and holds his edge, excellent. The QB hands it off and the offense has a numbers advantage inside. If he crashes down, the QB keeps it and attacks the vacant edge. The speed option is a zone blocking play where the QB is reading the end to the play side that's been left free. If he takes the bait and attacks the quarterback, he'll quickly pitch it to a running back working laterally to him, allowing him to attack a now vacated edge. If the end stays disciplined and holds the edge, the QB will turn it up inside and follow his blockers. The bash concept is essentially QB counter with the QB reading the backside end. Instead of someone cutting him down or hinging up to stop him, the QB will freeze him with a read, with the back going away from the play. If the end stays up with the read, the QB follows his blockers on the counter concept. If he crashes inside, the back gets the ball and is out fast to the edge. In the crash concept, the roles are reversed. The back is aligned behind the QB in a pistol formation this time and will receive the ball on the counter if the end stands up. If he crashes down, the QB keeps it and gets out to the open edge. Offenses aren't limited to one read, and this is where the famous triple option comes in, creating two read players based on the play design. This is a whole video in itself, and if you're after these types of details, come join us over on Patreon and ask us some questions in our Discord. An extension of the triple option is the RPO, or run pass option. The design gives the QB the option to either hand the ball off to his back, throw the ball to a receiver, or keep it for himself. Much like the triple option, the QB is reading a defender, and based on their movement will exploit the created space, either handing off when the defender doesn't commit, or throwing it to the receiver when he crashes the box. If neither instance occurs, the QB is usually left with a good gain on the ground himself. Although the passing game has come to dominate modern football, I hope this video has shown you why running the ball is still necessary, and hopefully you picked up on the X's and O's. The game will always be about three things: numbers, angles, and players. And until a team can show you that they know how to deal with these from a run perspective, you gotta keep testing them. It's true that the NFL was passing too little, but running the ball will never die.